In this presentation, I will be discussing the crisis case analysis of the temporary layoff that Goodwill of Central and Northern Arizona was faced with at the beginning of COVID-19 outbreak. On December 31st, 2019, WHO country's office in the People's Republic of China picked up a media statement by the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission from their website on cases of viral pneumonia in the Wuhan People's Republic of China. On January 2nd, WHO informed Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network partners about the clusters of pneumonia cases in the People's Republic of China. From here, several health authorities from around the world contacted WHO seeking additional information. According to the World Health Organization, by January of 2020 in Seattle, 2 people who recently flew from China came down with a respiratory illness considered to have been infected with the coronavirus. This brought the deadly virus COVID-19 that had impacted human life, bringing 98 cases of COVID-19 by the end of January 2020, reaching all states by the end of April of 2020, according to the World Health Organization. To ensure the safety of people, on March 11th of 2020, the U.S. and Arizona Department of Health Services, together with Governor Doug Ducey, signed an executive order announcing the mandatory stay-at-home quarantine, closing all businesses, including non-essential retail stores.
For joining us here this afternoon.
According to the California Department of Industrial Relations, a non-essential employee is someone employed in a job that is not crucial during an emergency like COVID-19 pandemic. Non-essential employees are not required to maintain business operational functions during natural disasters because their duties do not affect health and safety infrastructures.
When it comes to COVID-19,
COVID-19 impacted many nonprofit organizations, including Goodwill, with over 90-plus stores in central and northern Arizona, forcing the company to temporarily close their stores. When COVID-19 was first announced to have spread through Arizona, Goodwill took little action to avoid contamination and the spread of the virus. However, after the emergency executive order was delivered to the public, all retail stores considered non-essentials were forced to temporarily close, including all 90-plus Goodwill stores. With a simple store meeting, the organization fired or laid off 3,500 employees from over 90-plus stores in only one day, keeping 4 managers and 1 donation attendant for each store in order to continue receiving donations from customers. The stores were closed to the public. The donation centers were open to accept any kind of donations. Using their social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, the company announced their actions on COVID-19 to the public and their customers. With a short video and plain photos, the organization announced their statement on COVID-19 and the decision on temporarily closing their stores until further notice from the Arizona governor and its quarantine order.
Hello everyone, I'm Tim O'Neill, President and CEO of Goodwill of Central and Northern Arizona. The past several weeks have been hard on our communities around the world and right here in Arizona, as we all do our part to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Donations in retail drives our mission to help us end poverty through the power of work, and we know the work that we're doing is critical for our community. Today, Arizonans in our community are not only at risk health-wise, but they're also at greater risk of losing their jobs. The unemployment rate has increased substantially as more businesses have been impacted during these circumstances. Companies are reducing hours or closing altogether, and workers are being laid off and families are worried. Goodwill has been one of these businesses impacted greatly by this pandemic, and we had to temporarily close down our 90-plus retail locations in northern and central Arizona, causing us to make the incredibly difficult decision to part ways with.
With the drastic decision to close their stores, and with over 4,000 employees around Arizona, the organization mentioned steps they'll take in order to help their own employees receive unemployment from the government and also help them find jobs for the time being. Which, if we think about it, so far everything sounds great from a customer point of view. However, as the virus kept delaying the organization's scheduled reopening date, the company started reducing their help and contribution to their now ex employees' financial situation. Even though the organization promised its employees the benefit of rehiring them after the order had been lifted, most Goodwill employees were left alone without any help from the organization they once worked for. No unemployment help, no time set aside for employees to get connected with outside sources, and no communication with management after their last meeting. Having a diverse multitude of employees, including elderly and disabled, that weren't so knowledgeable with technology, were not even able to apply for unemployment, suffering the most from the incompetence of management during crises like these. Even though the organization's intentions were addressed in the beginning of the crisis, they did not handle this crisis accordingly to their posts on social media. I was shocked to see how Goodwill thought of their more fragile employees. One of our cashiers was over 65 years old and refused to retire due to her love for Goodwill. I can't say the feeling was reciprocal. She never came back when the company reopened, said Isabel, a 23 years old production associate who worked for Goodwill for over 5 years, struck by the company's decision to fire all of them. Now, I know Goodwill wasn't the only organization that had to close their doors to the public and even fire a few of their employees. However, the organization could have approached the situation in a different manner. Now, I am in no position to critique the crisis management procedures of Goodwill, but as an ex-employee myself, I was able to feel the pain and tragedy of all employees going through something similar a few years prior. From consulting with different employees and management, I believe Goodwill's leaders could have alleviated the situation not by firing all its members, but collectively including them in a leave of absence act. In this case, the employee would still be able to apply for unemployment according to the Executive Order 24 that was published in 2020, keep their earned vacation and sick time off, and allowed to return back with no penalty when the quarantine was off. I was extremely mad when I found out that all my vacation and sick time were erased from my paycheck and received nothing to substitute for the money I lost, said Clarissa, a cashier who worked at Goodwill for over 2 years. Even though the circumstances forced Goodwill to close their doors for a short period of time, just like any other organizations, they could have explained the situation to all employees and have a better approach to this issue. When the organization was faced with the accusations from the public through social media and different and other communication outlets, we can see how the firm used crisis theory of denial and reframed their message, blaming the circumstances on COVID-19 only. Also, using diffusion theory to show interest in the accusations, evaluation of those accusations, trial to reframe Goodwill's plan during COVID-19, and either adopt a new trial or reject any accusations, which eventually we can see that they decided to reject any accusations and just return back to their current plan, current crisis communication plan for COVID-19. Despite how Goodwill handled this crisis and how the circumstances were planned and executed, the ones that suffered the most were Goodwill employees. They lost their jobs, lost their income, were treated ungratefully during this period, and forced to face COVID-19 by themselves with little to no help from the organization they once worked for. Goodwill can learn from these circumstances and create a better communication crisis plan for future conditions. COVID was not something any organization created a crisis plan for, but we can learn from this and adapt better crisis plans for our future. Thank you for watching.